What's up, fellas?
Look, we're making the new counterculture whether they want it or not. So who's going to run the non-woke answer to Newsarama or the non-autistic IGN?
Ladies and gentlemen, you know him. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who's running IronAge.media, creating Anvil, the anthology.
Iron Age.
Iron Age. Who even
so-called
knows?
Iron Age. Yeah.
My next co-host, the man who will absolutely make you change. And by making you change, what I mean by that is he is going to help you change from having that story in your head to putting it on paper and putting it into people's hands. And this is the man, the myth, the legend, Daniel P. Riley of whimsyland.org.
Number one Iron Age Booty Daddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Royce. Welcome back to A Drink with Crazy.
I am buying a goat. I love goat. We have a show this evening, or we don't, and it all stops here. That's fine. And so cometh the Iron Age of media. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Iron Age Nights. What's going on, everybody? Oh, good Lord. Do we have a guest this evening? This is going to be awesome. I forgot to share on some social media platforms. I just realized that. Ladies and gentlemen, how is everybody doing tonight? Yes, welcome to the show. I open with technical difficulties and my brain forgetting things all the time, but that's okay. You're used to it. And without any further ado, guys, thank you so much for being here on Iron Age Nights. This is the show where we bring you a fantastic new creator or a creator that you might be very well aware of every single week, whether they are doing comics, novels, tabletop RPGs, movies, and so on. If you guys are in entertainment, especially indie entertainment, we are willing to talk with you, and we want to talk with you because, well, honestly, there's not a lot of light that gets shined on them, and if we can be a little light that shines, that's what we're going to do. Yes, I made that joke. I'm not going to apologize. But without any further ado, I will say hello to the chat because you guys are the reason that we're here. And you guys are the reason that we have hit episode 70. Episode 70, guys. We are here. So over on the Rumbles, we've got Garham. What's going on, man? It's good to see you. Lieutenant Bob, also known as King Bob.
King Bob.
We've got God Pineappler, or Pineapple as he misspelled his name, which is hilarious because I pointed that out to him. I will never let him forget that. Resident One over on YouTube, what's going on? We got Caffeinated Wolf, how you doing? TJ Marquis, it's awesome to see you. Gorilla Mar, what's going on? It's good to see you. Plant Vortex, that is a name that I am unfamiliar with. I am glad to see you here. Mrs. Caro Brown, how are you doing? We got Jersey as well. Timo Burnham, Redoubt Productions, Garham, he's double dipping between Rumble and YouTube. Herman P. Hunter, The Lore Forge as well.
Hello, Hedge.
Yes, also known as the Hedge on this channel. That lore goes back. We're not going to get into channel lore, right? Maji Chan, how are you doing? Trippy Soul, A.S. Bruner, how are you doing? Guilty Gearhead, what's going on? Raving Dad Gaming, hello. Jersey, how are you doing? It's good to see you. We got 10 Cage down in the chat as well. Iron Age Marketing, what's going on? John A.
Mickey.
Douglas, Mrs. R.H. Snow, JVP Music. Drake Tungsten, D Gray, what's going on? Oh my God, everybody showed up tonight. I don't actually know if I'll be able to do all this. Ram, what's going on, Ram? Oh, we got Bat Sauce as well. Straw Hat Guy, hail the lore. It's good to see you, man. Brian Sanchez, and the chat jumped on me again. I was trying to catch up. Devaney Wilson, DCC. It is good to see everybody. And if I forgot to say hello to you in the chat, it's fine. You can shame me. The chat does anyway, so I might as well give you a reason.
His co-hosts do too.
Yeah, I'm aware. My co-hosts do, my guests do. Chuck might by the end of the night. We don't know yet.
We'll find out.
And John A. Douglas sends in a $5 super chat. He says, "Sorry about your wasitis." Yes, that's what. So. Take these 5 shekels and get some medication for your irritated vagina, you white claw guzzling goat herder. So John got sick about a month ago, and I may or may not have told him he had the wasitis for about a week.
Vengeance.
So this is deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, John's coming in a little bit hot, even for him. I was like, oh, man.
Oh, no.
There must be something more here. He's feeling a little cranky or something. No, you earned it. I should have known it was your fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that
John's been holding it in for, what, 2 months now? 3 months?
The fact that wasitis got a laugh on my... Oh, other people have heard that term before, too. Oh, good Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for being here. It's time to introduce my absolutely overworked co-hosts, and not because of me, because they have other projects they're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard from IronAge.media, the guy who has too many magazines to release and too little time. How you doing, man? How has the last week been?
It's been really good. I got some wonderful progress on things. We'll go first.
He's not sick.
First strike. I finally got them all in. There was a little bit of a production delay that I didn't realize I was agreeing to in the terms, where it's like, we'll have it to you by this time, but then I apparently agreed that they didn't have to have it to me by that time.
Oh, no. Well, at least you have
I mean,
it,
I did agree to it, but it is a little bit scummy whenever they give you a delivery date. And I have no intention of actually hitting it. So, regardless, they're here now. I got a big box of them, and tore one open, threw it in my truck CD player, which has not been used, I think, since I got it, because all the speakers are just complete trash. It's a 2004, so it's anyway, the one speaker that was kind of on the edge is now it's
fully over the edge.
It's fully over the edge. And then I also got proofs in for issue number 3 of
that looks so good.
Issue number 3.
Dude.
It's beautiful, and another. Everybody did a great job on this one.
Richard,
Marcos, wonderful cover.
Give me your, because we have Chuck Dixon here. Mm-hmm. Give us the 30-second explanation of what you're holding in your hands. It's Chuck Dixon, dude. Come on.
Okay, I'll do a little bit of a shill. So Anvil is meant to be a stepping stone into the world of indie. It's a selection of the best that the Iron Age has to offer. It's a collection of short fiction, comics, and art. And so you're going to get a broad variety of genres and styles in here. It has, I think this, I'm blanking out, this issue, I believe, has 12 short stories and 2 comics, and we got 4 artists in here. So it's each one of them is a great little piece, a great sample of what that author has to offer. So the idea is, if you want to get into the indie scene and you don't know where to start, you can grab Anvil, get a good selection. You know that there's going to be something in there that's awesome, and maybe you don't like everything, but you will certainly find some stuff that you love, and that can help you go find those authors and pick up more stuff from them. So
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I didn't know there was anything like that still out there.
Yeah. I'd be happy to send you a copy if you'd be interested.
Oh, absolutely. I would be honored.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I will-
is that
I will
issue
get you-
3? That's issue
Yes,
3.
that's issue number 3, and I'll be getting funding going for issue number 4 as soon as I get done there. But
and this is issue number 1 right here.
yeah,
And this has some fantastic.
that one
fantastic
had a
stories in it.
preview from Ghost of the Badlands, which actually that's
Yeah.
the Western graphic novel from Razor Fist and George Alexopoulos. But
Cool.
each issue has had some absolutely great stuff in it, and the 4th issue is no different. So I'm excited to bring that one forward to everybody once I get issue number 3 out the door and shipped. So
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Maybe we should have you explain what Anvil is every show.
I don't know about that. That
I
might get a little bit tedious.
I just had
At least
this
maybe I need to
revelation.
work on like a 15-second ad read for it and just spit that out.
Right? There you go.
Marketing. I should probably do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That
we got
thing.
Iron Age marketing in the chat. He can
That
help
is
with
true.
that. Yeah.
He can. I sit down with
I
him
should
almost
probably
every
just
single
sit
week.
down and be like, yes, I know there's a million things, but help me, help.
Never be afraid to ask for help. The Lord Otter for $2 says, "Oh no, I've got hiccups." Woof. Did you guys see that Comic Shop Wednesday?
No, I must
Okay,
have
so
missed that
here's
part.
the backstory. Comic Shop Wednesday.
Oh, Lord.
My guests on the show are my supporters through my Gilded. So if you guys are a part of my Gilded and you join my Gilded, which I don't even have my Word document up to actually send links to people.
Yeah,
But
you should
if
probably
are,
do that.
If you are a part of my Gilded, I invite you, and you are a supporter there specifically, I invite you onto the show, and you guys can come and hang out, and we can check out all the indie projects. Well, one of my supporters had the hiccups, and the chat decided he sounded like a barking dog every time he hiccuped. And that continued for almost an hour and a half.
That's quite a long time.
I couldn't breathe at one point, not because I had the hiccups, but because of what the chat was saying. So that's where that. Do I have to explain channel lore? No, it's hilarious. I don't care. It's funny. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who will pull the story out of your head and help you get it onto the page with his coaching and writing services, as well as the guy who is also putting out some fantastic stories and his Color Pop comic as well, which was graciously funded by Eric July. It was absolutely awesome of Eric to do that, and because of that, we're actually going to see these comics, these Color Pop comics in hand. I should probably blow it up. Dude, hold it up again. Do it again. Sorry, I'm terrible at this. I'm trying to do things. Up a little higher. Higher. There you go. And those are the 3 fantastic covers that you guys will probably be receiving. So
At least one if you ordered one.
absolutely. And I'm being told to go check. So, Daniel, how are you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm still dying. It has been an exhausting week. Difficult enough just to get client work done. It's been like an hour of work and an hour of sleep. And just that in rotation in order to get things done. But I did get a box full of merch in. So after making sure everything's there, I'll have everything to start fulfillment on Monday. All the comics are bagged and boarded with the help of my beloved daughter, since I have the plague and can't function. So, but yeah, otherwise been going well, as well as can be when you're sick.
Yeah, dude, I think all of us have been feeling that this week. And this month, actually, it's been absolutely...
Sunday's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, because you got to do your show on Sunday. Oh,
yeah.
That's going to be a fun time.
I think by the end of the second writing sprint, if I survive, it's just going to be me sort of, I'm gonna, good night.
I think we've all been there.
Unless I
am-
actively fall asleep on screen in front of everybody, like
I am 90% sure. I am 90% sure.
I'm
I
not sure
nod-
that's even the first time that's happened.
Yeah, it's my
no.
90%. You've
I could go
absolutely-
viral.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, everybody seemed to enjoy me constantly sliding lower and lower in my chair the drunker I got over those few months. So, maybe falling asleep live will be like a rare treat or something.
And before I introduce our fantastic guest this night, which you guys know who he is, but etiquette is etiquette. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure for $5 says, a wise man once said, comic books are like breasts. They are nice to look at on a computer, but they feel much better in your hands.
Not wrong.
I mean, this is true.
I mean,
I'm not sure how you could argue with that one.
no, you can't. No, you can't.
I mean,
really
there's a
argue.
reason why I'm a big fan of physical media. Let's just put it that way. So,
And bigger isn't always better. You want a nice handful.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I have no better note. I don't know what to do here. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chuck Dixon.
Thanks so much for that lead in.
we do our best, or worse. I'm not sure.
Well,
Gotta make it fun.
I never claimed to be a professional. I just claimed to be here. Chuck, how have you been doing?
Good. I was over the thing the creeping crud that you guys have. I got over it a couple of weeks ago, so I'm back to work.
Oh, there you go.
So I wrote the plot to the next Joe Frankenstein installment. Graham and I are working on, and
Nice.
There you go.
I wrote a couple of Medal of Honor comics last week. I write Medal of Honor comics for the Association for the United States Army. You can read them free on their website, the AUSA.com website. So
Awesome. Are they
That's
printed
awesome.
anywhere that you know of?
they print them and they hand them out at the
Okay.
USA convention every year. But I'm trying to convince them to put a whole bunch of them into a collection because we got almost 200 pages of them now.
That's
So, like,
awesome.
You guys got to go retail because I get bugged all the time. When are these going to see print? So
It'd
Well,
be neat to have like a
sounds
collection
cool.
or something.
yeah, it's got some top talent in it. Wayne Van Zandt, PJ Holden, Andrew
Mhm.
Paquette, Jeff Isherwood. I mean, a lot of top comic book guys worked on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
absolutely awesome.
And the stories are jaw dropping. I mean, they really happened, and these guys are real superheroes. So
That might interest me. You say
Yeah.
one of my favorite, and I don't know if anybody's ever done it before, but one of my favorite classic, and actually one of my heroes in history, just because I don't know, I just like I what I've seen historically, but it would be really cool to see a comic made of Eddie Rickenbacker.
yeah,
Whoa, you know who Eddie Rickenbacker is?
yeah, yeah.
All
We haven't
right.
gotten to him yet. I don't believe he was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, so we won't get.
Mm-mm. No, he wasn't. No. He wasn't a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. However, he was one of the few back in World War I. He was actually he is one of few foreigners to ever essentially get the foreigners Medal of Honor in France back in
Right.
World War I, because they don't hand those out like candy.
No, they do not.
But I mean, how could you not write a story about a guy who is named the Ace of Aces? I mean, and that's a comic book title, right? Sorry, that's my nerdisms coming in.
No. Hey, I'm nerdy in the whole.
Oh God.
Our Venn diagrams are a circle on that one.
Oh man, the first time I read about him, I was like, this guy is incredible. I love anyway. But before I go down that rabbit
I'll
hole, I'm
look
told I'm
into
not
it.
allowed to. I am told I'm not allowed to rabbit hole once I introduce the guest. So that's what my co-hosts tell me. They yell at me backstage. It's terrible. You guys should see them backstage. They're horrible.
He doesn't
people.
read the backstage, so it doesn't really make any difference. But
That's why I
So-
stopped using it.
I know. I never claimed to be professional. I claim to be here. I just said they don't listen to me. But anyway, so all right. So I've got to ask, the same question that I asked for so many people, because I feel that it's an important question to ask for so many of the creatives who are in the chat right now. A lot of the chat are people who are starting off on the journey that you started off on years ago. And I like to start off with this. Obviously, you've got a pedigree behind you that so many people know at this point. But where does that begin for you? Like, how old were you when you got bit by the bug, when you got bit by that wonder? Was there a person in your life that told you to go for it? Where does this whole thing begin for you, your creative journey?
Well, like so many comic book people, I was sick a lot as a child. So people would bring me comic books because, I'm not old. There were only 3 channels on TV, and there wasn't a whole lot of entertainment options. And people would bring me comic books, and I just sort of lived in those comic books. It was possible to stare holes in a comic book page, I would have done it. And I just sort of fell in love with the medium, even before I could read them. And I sort of adopted comics as a second language. And it's all I ever wanted to do was work in the comic field. I'm not on my way to be a screenwriter or a big time novelist or anything else. I just want to write comics. And that's really where I began. And then, never thought about it as a profession or a vocation until I was in elementary school. In 3rd grade, our teacher gave us an assignment to pick a picture out of a box of pictures she had clipped out of a magazine and write a story about it. And I said, well, can I have more than one picture? So I took about 6 pictures. I made up this whole story. And when I read it in front of the class, they laughed. And I meant them to laugh. And I thought, wow, I want to keep doing this.
That's awesome.
I want to write and entertain people. So
that's
there
awesome.
You go.
So how old were you when
best
you did
attitude.
That? I guess I was about 8 years old.
No kidding.
And I wanted to write my 6th grade play.
Really?
Usually they just pull it out of a book somewhere. I'm like, could I have a shot at writing this? I'm like, okay.
Wait, what? Well, and they actually did it.
Yeah. We actually performed my 6th grade play.
So, I mean, okay. You laugh, but you wrote a play in the 6th grade, and the school and the faculty and the students all decided this is good enough to do that. I mean, there's a lot of trust there from a lot of people. Like, but that's huge. So, I mean, so when you were young, I mean, obviously that's a big boost for you. Like, were you in the play itself, or were you sitting off to the side?
Yeah, I ended up taking the lead role. So
okay. Again, you laugh, but
the self-insert power.
Do you remember? But right, the self-insert power. But
this was before they knew about like the whole Mary Sue Gary.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they didn't wise up to it, but
okay.
Little Chuck got to go around and punch all the other kids that were mean to him.
So,
well, that's what the play says. I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the play. Right.
Now hold still.
No, hold still. So you have to act when I hit you like it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, you gotta
that
sell
much.
it.
But anyway, God bless it. No, so okay, but you sons of bitches. Sorry, I'm a drunk redneck and I'm a construction worker, Chuck. I apologize about my language in advance. And
I come from a long line of white trash, so I'm right there with you.
Oh, hey, cheers to you, good sir. Hey, look at that beer.
I'll drink to that.
Anyway, so I mean, so it seems like even from a young age, you started getting, I guess, age appropriate like motivation and respect for what you were doing. I mean, that's huge. There's not many kids. I mean, you think of all the kids that go to school and all the kids that write and all the kids that want to do what you did, but in the 6th grade, they trusted you enough to write a play, and kids acted in it. You acted in it. Now, I mean, now everybody's going to joke, oh, well, it was sixth grade. It wasn't exactly good, this and that. But that doesn't matter.
No.
You were able to write something to a point that people trusted you. And I would assume, play production, you probably had, 25, 30, 40 people working on that thing.
Right.
Trusting you enough to do, the school gathering. You get the parents together, you get the grandparents together, you get older kids together, families together around this thing. That must have been huge. That must have been something that felt absolutely fantastic. I mean,
I had the two elements that every writer needs. I had an equal measure of ignorance and confidence.
There you go.
That's what you really need to do this. Because, if you have second thoughts for a second, you're like, well, who am I to be doing this? Mm-hmm. But I just never looked back.
Right. So now the question is, were you complimented on the play, or did you learn something the hard way?
I don't remember a lot about it, but my most pleasing moment was all the school bullies thought it was hysterical, and it was a comedy. So the the too cool for school kids, they laughed a lot. They got into it.
I mean,
it could have been a tough room.
It could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So where do you go from there? Where does I
just I drew my own comics. I drew hundreds and hundreds of pages of comics.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be an artist, but I just didn't have the discipline. So of course I became a writer.
Hi.
That's shots fired. You hear that? You can't draw, so you write. That's what he said. That's what I heard anyway.
I can do stick figures really, really well. That's about it.
I wanted to be Steve Ditko, but it was apparent I was not going to be Steve Ditko, so I just turned to the writing end of it.
What was like the first character or series that you remember being like really in love with that you read as a child?
Well, it would be Spider-Man. I read comics. I love Batman. I love Superman. I love all that stuff. And then Spider-Man came along, and for so many people, it really spoke to me. He was so much more believable than the other superhero characters. He's so much more endearing and relatable, and all the rest of it. Those first issues by Ditko and Lee are they're the template for how to do superhero comics, in my opinion. So that's what really engaged me. That's what really got me more and more into studying the medium. How do they do this? How does this work?
Well,
big inspiration for Legacy Heroes.
If I say this incorrectly, it's going to sound like an insult. And if I say it correctly, it's also going to sound like an insult. So I guess
that's
the way to say it.
We're off to a strong start here.
I'm braced.
No. I do have some jealousy in that you were born and you were old enough to witness a time where some of the greatest stories in American history, specifically American history, from American writers, those stories, you were born in a time when those stories were created.
Yeah.
And you got to witness that. I was not. I was there years later and not even realizing them until years after that. And do you remember, and this is something that I don't think I've ever asked, do you remember kind of the feeling around comic books at the time when Spider-Man came out? Because so many people do reference Spider-Man. And me, being as young as I am, I'm only in my 30s. People talk about Spider-Man the animated series, right? Spider-Man was already a tentpole of Americana at the time. He was baked into Americana at the time. What was it like witnessing that creation? Did you feel something in the culture? Did it look like it was moving that way? Did you think it was going to be bigger than it was? Was there talk around all of the kids? Do you remember, or was it just, man, this is a good book?
Yeah, everybody read comics because they were everywhere. you couldn't get away from comics. You went to the barber shop, there was a stack of comics. You went to other people's houses. You went to the drugstore. You went to the farmer's market. Comics everywhere. But I was the only kid I knew who was really into them. I mean, I wouldn't meet other comic book fans until I started going to comic book conventions when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
comics were kind of they were a subculture. And everybody knew who Spider-Man was, and the kids watched the cartoons, and but nobody was like as into it. There was nobody to talk to about it. I remember in high school, I was on the school newspaper, and a girl on the paper said, I want to start a series of stories about people and their hobbies, students and their hobbies, but I can't find anybody who wants to talk about their hobby. And I said, well, I collect comic books. And she said, see what I mean? You don't want anybody to know that.
Oh, wow.
So that's the way it was. To me, I mean, the creation of the Marvel Universe and watching it happen was, earth shaking. It was this sea change. And because I, believed every word Stan Lee said, I thought, well, this is the great American medium, which he wasn't lying about that. And there are great days ahead for the Marvel characters. And I believe that as well. And it turned out that was true as well.
Mhm.
And I was completely convinced that if these characters ever broke wide into the general public, they would be embraced and loved like I love them. And all that came to fruition. But for a long time, I was the only guy I knew who, was into them to that degree.
That's crazy. That is that again, it snapshots in time. We all live in snapshots in time, and I don't think, I know a lot of people say, oh, we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people quite realize what that means.
Yeah.
And
really, they don't.
And to be perfectly honest, I don't think I know what that means. I can conceptualize it, but I can never feel that earth-shattering or that earth-shaking moment that you felt watching the Marvel Universe. I can only, I guess, feel the tremors of that as I was growing up with the animated series, and then the movies coming out, the Raimi movies coming out when I was younger. And I, and I've said this, when I was a kid, my reading was a chore for me. It was made to be a chore for me. I wouldn't even pick up a comic book, but I love superheroes. So the way that I would learn about comic books without actually picking them up was talk to my friends who read them.
Right.
And I would ask, I hated reading with a passion as a kid. And I as a father now, I realize how bad I am. And that's why I've got a stack of books over here that I'm slowly working.
Race is a secondhand geek.
Secondhand is too good of a compliment for me. But yeah, I found my workarounds for it, but I will never know how influential that time period was. And being able to talk with people who were there and who can go, yeah, no, this was big, but it was still underground. It still wasn't the popular thing. So,
which is amazing, because the comics sold so much better then. They really were more part of the pop culture now.
So
the comics themselves than they are now.
So then why? Mm-hmm. So why did nobody want to be associated with them? What's the cultural thing there? Why? I mean, they sell so good back then. Everybody wants to say that they're a comic book nerd now, but nobody buys them. And back then, nobody wanted to admit it to being a comic book nerd, but everybody bought them. What's the?
Yeah, they were uniquely American products, so it was acceptable. It's like I can't even think of a good analogy for it, but like when I was growing up, which was the beginning of the 80s, and then in my teenage years in the 90s, it was still comic shops were that corner with the weird people,
Well, I also think
they existed, and everybody knew that it was there. And could, if someone said, "Hey, is there a comic shop?" that everyone in town would be like, "Yeah, it's right over there, where the weird people are." You know, the thing with the dragon on it. And they would say it with the sort of, "Why do you want to go there?" Yeah, like undertone, but they would still accept that it was a part of society. And I think that was kind of the difference, because parents gave their kids allowances, and where did their kids go? Straight down to the comic shop to get their favorite superheroes. And nobody batted an eye until you hit, 14, 15 years old if you were a boy. And then your mom started going, "Why are you buying comic books? Save your money for a car. What's wrong with you?" You know?
I got something like that, believe it or not. I mean, obviously my time period, you guys see the Yu-Gi-Oh cards behind me, but that was my age group. But yeah, I mowed lawns, and me and my buddies would ride down to the 7-Eleven and we would buy card packs. Like, and I still, I bought action figures and cards all the way up and through my high school years, until, we ended up moving, and I lived in an area where none of that stuff existed. And like I moved to an area where the general store was 25 minutes away, and so, but was that something similar for you, Chuck, what Daniel just described?
Well, I mean, kids read them, and then most kids outgrew them, and I didn't outgrow them because I was looking at them for a different reason. I mean, because I was at the drugstore and I was opening the comics to see who drew it. Mm-hmm. And there was always some new young punk behind the counter going, "Hey, this isn't a library. You can't read the comics." I just wanted to see who drew it. And one time the pharmacist actually came out and says he just wants to see who drew it, because I was in there all the time. So when I was growing up, there was like a two-edged stigma against comics. One, they were for children. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that opinion was shared by a lot of the comic book companies until Stan Lee. And the other thing was, it wasn't that long after things like Senate hearings and books written about comics, and they were causing juvenile delinquency. I mean, I wasn't allowed to read Mad. Mad was not allowed into our house for a long time.
Wow.
Because it was published by EC, the infamous EC Comics. And so, they were around, but they were just, they were for kids, right. But everybody read them. I mean, my older sisters read them. They read Green Lantern because they thought Hal Jordan was cute, but, everybody had their favorite comics. But there was still a stigma. And as you got older, it was like, haven't you outgrown them yet? Like, I don't think I'll ever outgrow these.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So you're moving on. Obviously, we talked about the 6th grade play. You're writing. You're obviously continuing your writing journey. And this is what and the reason that I like to continue on this is because there's a lot of people here, like I said earlier, who they're just starting now, or they might be just after their starting point, but you've run the race for a long time. So after you write the 6th grade play, like you continue your writing, I assume. What are the next milestones? What are some of the things that kind of gave you a reality check on your writing?
Like, well, I started, Comic Buyer's Guide would advertise, they would have fanzines that were looking for, stories and art. And I started contributing to them. So I started getting feedback from other comic book people and meeting other up and coming comic book people, some of whom went on, John Byrne and I were in a fanzine together.
That's freaking cool.
I don't know if you guys know Jim Engel. Incredible cartoonist. We were in a lot of fanzines together. And so, it gave me some outside eyes on my stuff. And then I started, trying to hit what the just dawning age of independent comics, which basically, if you get Bud Plant to buy 100 copies, you could do a comic book. Because he was the only game in town for distributing this stuff. Because at that time, comic book shops were getting all their comics from the news agencies. There was no nationwide distributor for comics. So that was like the only show in town. And, you know, I would go up over and over again to visit DC. Marvel would never let you in. You know, until years later, I got interviews at Marvel, mostly through Archie Goodwin. But so I looked in other endeavors. I did TV commercial storyboards for a while. I wrote some children's books because, you know, children's book editors would see you, even if they didn't know who you were. They'd give you an interview. I got interviewed by the Muppets to write for the Muppet, you know, the publishing ventures the Muppets were involved in, stuff like that. I mean, I just wanted to write. Now I wanted to write comics, but, you know, mostly I wanted to write. I didn't want to be doing the jobs I was doing, you know, security guard, driving an ice cream truck, being a janitor, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Any writing gig was a good writing gig.
That's incredible. Okay. Did you get to write anything for the Muppets? Or were you just interviewed? Oh,
I had the most awesome. You ever have one of those interviews where you thought, okay, this is it, a lock, my future is secured, and then nothing happened. I mean, I was toured around the Muppet townhouse in New York, the Brownstone, freaking amazing place, by Bruce McNally, who at the time was Jim Henson's right-hand man. And he toured me all, and we hit it off like a house of fire. I mean, I was telling him ideas I had, and he loved it. And he was touring. He was taking me through all these. The most fascinating thing was the failed merchandising things. They had a room full of merchandising things that were never created. They only had the prototypes. He showed me all these things. But and just the building itself, it's just staggering. And I, you know, but you know, nothing came of that for whatever reason.
Huh.
So there's a lot of
interesting.
Children's books is a nasty business. It is a nasty business. So I don't know what happened backstage after I left. So
that's incredible.
But yeah, so you know, but I wrote 2 Winnie the Pooh word books. I wrote a Raggedy Ann and Andy book under a pseudonym. You know, a bunch of other stuff, and then some. I did work on books I got paid for, but the books never came out because I tell you, one that never came out should never have come out. It's a terrible idea for a children's book. It was the editor's idea. It was called "What's in Mrs. Kangaroo's Pouch."
Why do I feel like I've actually heard about that?
If you've ever seen the book Pat the Bunny, it was supposed to be like a Pat the Bunny, and there would be a pouch you could reach into and feel shapes. And I said, you do know what's in a kangaroo's pouch, right? It's basically a mucus sac with possibly a kangaroo fetus in it. I mean, but I got paid, you know, to do layouts for it.
Oh my gosh! So, I was not expecting any of that, good and bad, any of that. Dude, we went from touring the Muppets to mucous membranes in a kangaroo pouch. That's a hard turn.
Well, I get, you know, but from there, my first professional comic job was, I heard there was this outfit called Countrywide in New York, and they were going to do a heavy metal type magazine. And I get up there and interview with this guy, and Countrywide was, you know, their biggest selling magazine was Jaws of Death. It was a magazine filled with shark stories about people being eaten by sharks. They had a UFO book, a magazine. They had a 44 Magnum magazine. This was the kind of publisher they were.
Right.
And
shock and awe.
I told the guy some ideas I had, and I said, well, basically, what do you want? You know, he said, I want sex and violence. And I said, yeah, okay. Well, I pitched a few ideas, and then he said, can you have 11 pages to me by next Friday? And I said, well, what do you want them to be about? Because by next Friday. So did 11 pages, and they paid me $40 a page for everything, writing, penciling, inking, lettering. And, you know, I was like, I'm a comic pro. And I worked for 2 more issues. And they discovered.
Wait. What were those pages about?
The first story was called Corny and Zorn. It was basically Starsky and Hutch in space. It was about 2 like bounty hunters on a planet full of alien criminals. And the next one was a time travel thing. I forget what the title of that one was, but you're going to love the name of the magazine. The magazine was called Gasm.
Tasteful. I like it.
Yes. Very, very tasteful.
Oh, very on the nose. I'm sorry. I had to ask. I was like, if I don't ask, I don't think he's going to tell.
Yeah. So you can find that.
I want to find. Okay. Wait, what issue was it? I'm going to eBay.
I was in issues 1, 2, and 3. I wrote and drew some stories, and then I wrote some stories.
Be careful with your search history there.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that one.
I'm not careful with my search history. I don't care.
All I'm going to say is I don't necessarily advise to go into gasm.com or something like that.
No, I'm going to eBay. Yeah, it's like comic.
eBay, I swear, honey. This is purely for research purposes.
Yes. Chuck
My
Dixon
wife
told me
is
to
on
go
the
here.
stream right now. My wife is here. She knows what I'm saying. I think I found it.
Yeah, they're out there.
Hooray!
There we go.
They're a little spendy.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, this one, that one's graded. That's why.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, well, of course.
Okay. No. Okay. I found them. I will be sending these to my wife and be like, I can get some of the first like published writing from Chuck Dixon. Like, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. I somewhat have a rule about not bringing books into the house that I don't want my kids to have, but these will be hidden in the office.
There you go.
So this is my wife in the chat says, "Oh no, my search history is far worse."
I believe that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Will he trade an autograph for homemade barbecue sauce or 10?
That's a good trade, Chuck. Just so you know, it's
I'll
a
do
great
that.
trade.
Stop buying my barbecue sauces, Daniel. I
No,
wanted my wife to make them for me, and now she makes them. That's a thing, though. That's a thing, though. Like my wife, we have a garden every year. My homemade peppers, barbecue sauces. Yeah. So, sorry to go on that. No, I actually found them though.
Wow, that's cool.
This is really cool. It's kind of a piece of history. That's
going to go right there next to your 100-year-old Dante's Inferno. Just two peas in a pod. We got Dante's Inferno, and then we got Gasm magazine.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it in here,
featuring the talents of Chuck Dixon.
and it's not a 100-year-old. It's a 144 years old.
Okay, 144 year old. All the more reason why these things go perfectly together, I think. No, I'm just don't take it out. Okay.
he has to show it now that you brought it up.
I have
I
been
almost
meaning to
didn't.
check it for a few days for moisture content because I need to know if I need to put the packets in. So this gives me a good excuse
You can
to do
just
that.
you could just say that
But
you
yeah.
wanted to show it
No,
off.
my
It's
wife
like
knows
Gustave
that-
Doré, the Gustave Doré illustrated edition. Oh man,
Oh my
Yes.
God. You know
Oh,
this
There we
one.
go.
yeah.
I got to be careful because it's actually still bound, but I have to be careful.
Oh yeah. That's amazing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And actually, I'm glad I checked it because I can feel the moisture content in it. So I actually need to add more drying.
More desiccants.
Yep. Oh no, I got a bag full of them over here.
Wow, good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Nope. I'm trying to keep. My wife bought that for me.
Chuck Dixon likes the gift I gave.
Speaking of which,
My wife is over here. So
Really? You're not gonna
yeah, that's my wife is down here right now.
You're not gonna repeat that?
I couldn't hear you. I had my
I
ears in.
said Chuck Dixon likes the gift I gave you.
She says, Chuck Dixon liked the gift I gave you, and she's over here clapping.
Who wouldn't like that gift? My God.
Well, it's Dante's Inferno is my favorite story on the planet.
Yeah. Wow.
I have said on stream, and it's been clipped and shared, and I tell people all the time, because I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of an a-hole about stuff, but because people get mad about, oh, you thought this story was good, you thought this story was good. I'm like, yeah, no, it took me out of the world for 45 minutes. That's what a story's supposed to do. I was like, you guys really want a story that like completely blows my mind? I said, write something better than Dante's Inferno.
Good luck.
And I was being unironically serious about that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Me
like,
too.
guys, stories are there to be fun and just to take you out of the world for a short bit of time.
Right.
This barking back and forth about, I'm like, guys, it's comic books or it's sci-fi. Like, what are we arguing about? What are
Right.
I'm like, you guys are looking for a
Royce,
level of writing that
It's a subversion of reality's expectations through the eyes of my ideology. Okay.
all of that sucks. I'm telling you right now, all of that sucks. Just take me out of the world for 45 minutes. Okay.
Agreed.
Like maybe
So
you
let's-
need your ideology challenged
So
Constantly.
constantly.
all
Don't we all have those moments of doubt where we rethink?
You do.
You know, is that right? Am I right in believing that? You know,
I've had those moments that have completely shaken my entire world.
Oh.
I've had moments in my life that have recontextualized my idea of life itself. Specifically, one of them that I don't talk about on stream, but I think all of us going through life have those ideas.
yeah. Well, we all have those moments, or we should all have those moments where we sit down and give ourselves a good talking to. You know,
Oh, agreed.
ask ourselves the hard
100%.
questions.
So, all right. So just because this popped up in the conversation and I thought about it, and you know, I don't know when to stop. Do you think people take specific? And I'm talking specifically about Twitter at this point. God help me.
Twitter is not real
Do you
life.
think that people are taking comics too seriously now, or a certain sect of people, or
Now.
or have they always? Or
I think they're taking themselves too seriously.
okay, that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
You know, I always say, Clint Eastwood once said, I always take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. And I've always thought, well, that's a good guideline for a creator.
Agreed.
You know, I'm very, very serious when I write, you know, my silly stories, and they mean a lot to me, and I'm very, very earnest about them. But I'm not saying, you know, I'm going to change the world. You know, I'm just here to entertain the precocious 10-year-old that I see in my mind when I write.
That's awesome. I
Same.
that's exactly the thing that I've been trying to kind of tell a lot of people who watch the channel and who tune in is like, guys, the whole reason that I'm on this journey, one, well, God asked me to be on this journey, but two, I'm looking, my children don't have any American superheroes that they're avid about, right? And when I was a kid, man, I couldn't get enough of them. Well, and again, I watched a lot of animated shows. I watched a lot. I grew up, you know. I had kids, and I was still watching the cartoons, and I was still looking more into my superheroes that I loved. I still maintain that, and I may not be the most knowledgeable person ever, but Gambit is still probably one of my favorite superheroes ever. I love Gambit. I love his power set. I love, you know, I love the backstory that I know about Gambit from the X-Men. I always loved his style. My kids don't have an American superhero that they love. They don't have that guy that they're wanting to learn more about. And I'm like, guys, I'm doing this because, and I'm reading more now as a father than I did as a kid because I want my kids to have that. And you just said you're writing something for that 10-year-old kid that can read something from you.
Right.
Do you see that sentiment out there a lot, or is that sentiment relatively gone? I get the feeling that a lot of people are writing for adults now, not necessarily for kids to captivate the children.
Yeah, well, I mean, even when I was writing for kids, you know, that precocious 10-year-old, I was never writing for kids, if you know what I mean. I never wrote down, I never pandered, because I hate it when they go, we got to create comics for children. Well, my comics when I was a child were Fantastic Four. You know, and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, they weren't written down to me as an 8 or 9-year-old. You know, they were written with the idea in mind that older kids would read. You know, college age students were still reading. So, you know, that's why Stan Lee increased my vocabulary. You know, I was reading way above my grade level because of comics.
Mhm.
And you know, and when they started to, when they basically skipped 2 generations of readers. There's 2 generations of readers who comics weren't a part of their lives, and we have to try to get some of them back. What they did with the direct market, and began with the direct market, is they tried to hold on to the fans that they had, and they tried to quote unquote mature the comics along with their readership, and that's not a good game plan. You know, we're gonna reach out to consumers who will either age out or die out. I mean, that's not a good idea. Comics always reinvented themselves, you know, every few years. Look at Batman. Look at the changes Batman has gone through in his evolution. That's because there were new readers coming in all the time. You know, old readers were aging out. They discovered cars and the opposite sex, and they stopped reading them. And then their little brothers and sisters started reading.
Yep.
And then, you know, eventually their children were reading. And so, but we've stopped doing that. We've stopped evolving them, and we've gone down this road of, you know, dark and grim, and my least favorite word, gritty comics.
Yeah.
I had a guy on my channel say, you know, you dissed Dark Knight Returns, but you owe so much to Miller in your writing. And I'm like, I don't owe anything to Frank Miller in my writing. You know, Frank Miller does what he does, but you know, my Batman was Denny O'Neil, Archie Goodwin, you know, Bill Finger.
How
You know, it was never Frank Miller. I never wrote anything like what Miller did with Batman.
How does that association even happen?
I don't know, because I dissed Dark Knight Returns. I didn't really diss it. I just said that it wasn't for me, and I thought that, you know, I know it wasn't Miller's intention, but it took comics down a dark pathway that, you know, everybody keeps doubling down on, and it's like you can only
And that
go
never
so
stopped.
dark.
And
Yeah,
that
it never
and that-
stops.
And I. So, in your opinion, why
My big issue with
why
it too.
did the industry start on the dark pathway? Because I've been scratching my head at that, and a lot of people blame.
They were
and
trying to appeal to the older audience,
Well,
or what they believed was an older
Well-
audience that wasn't actually there.
A lot of people blame the turn to the dark, and I can't tell you the book, but it was the book where Gwen Stacy died. Spider-Man tries to save Gwen Stacy.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
No.
No. So, okay, because a lot of people attribute that to be like, that's where comics really became gritty and dark. And okay, okay. Yeah, no, I'm just telling you what I've heard. It's just a popular. So where do you think it begins then? Where
Well,
does
it begins with things like Watchmen, especially Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns. And the thing is, I'm not taking any away from those comics. They're well crafted, you know, entertaining comics in their own right. Unfortunately, they featured, well, not Watchmen so much, but they featured characters who up to that point appeared on lunchboxes and underoos and things like that, and put them into more adult situations, you know, darker, grimmer situations. And a lot of comic creators gravitated toward that. Like, and I blame DC, because Marvel really never did that. You know, they never put out their dark comic book until years later. But I blame DC, because if you went to DC in the 80s, they would hold up Dark Knight Rises and Watchmen as the be-all, end-all, zenith, apex of comic book creation, and they will never be duplicated. No one will ever do a comic book as good as Dark Knight Returns. It's like, well, that's a hell of a thing to tell your creators.
Right?
There's no going beyond this. There's no improving on this. And I would argue that many comics that followed from DC after that were equal to or superior to those projects.
Wait, they actually said that?
Yeah. It was the feel that you'll never. I remember when Scott Beatty and I did Robin Year One, and we said you should do it as a hardcover and have the trade dress match Batman Year One. Well, you would have thought we'd thrown a punch at the Pope. What? You think your book is as good as Batman Year One? It's like, okay, yes, we do, but we didn't say that. We think it's good. You know, Javier Pulido did an incredible job on this book. We worked really hard to make it good. Yeah, we believe it's as good, you know, on its own merits. But we didn't say that. But we said, look, forget that from a marketing standpoint. Why would you say, well, we're putting out this book, but it's not as good as this other book?
Why that? But that's
especially when it's Batman and Robin.
But that does, yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
that,
And it was year one. I mean, it's Batman year one.
yeah, callbacks.
Don't you want a whole
callbacks
shelf?
are a thing to get fans to call back. Like,
Yeah. Don't you want a whole shelf of these things? I mean, we'll keep on writing year ones till the cows come home, and have a whole shelf, and they have matching trade dress. You can put them in slipcase editions and everything else. I mean, they're going to bring out later in the year a slipcase of Nightwing year one, Robin year one, Batgirl year one. Batman year one won't be in there. Oh my gosh! Put that vaunted piece of literature in with that trash. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's like it's when they stopped acting like publishing businesses. Stop trying to reach out to a real audience.
Yep.
So I mean, and I ran into that over and over and over again.
I will be right back, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since Royce has disappeared, I'm gonna
and Richard's got a half hour.
There he is. Well, I'm gonna pretend that
he tricked us all.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yes. I want to know, with the latest move into like the Rippaverse and some of the other more independent collaborations that you've done, when you moved into that, was there any was part of that trying to put stuff out there that you couldn't get out anywhere else, or was it just a matter of wanting to be a part of creating new stuff in a less restrictive environment, or what motivated you to make that move?
Well, when I got into comics, I was working on mainstream established licensed characters, but I was also doing a lot of creator owned. So I was doing both at the same time. So I've always been an advocate of creator owned. And then I mean, they want to say the blacklist doesn't exist, but I'm blacklisted at DC Marvel. I couldn't work there, and I'm not alone. And a lot of it isn't even politics. It's just we don't want you anymore. But it's like, I'm sorry, I'm a comic book writer. I'm going to keep working. I still have things to say. I still feel like I'm at the peak of my powers. And so, crowdfunding comes along, and all of a sudden I'm in demand. I'm getting emails, the phone's ringing, and would you write something for me? Would you write something for me? I was like, yeah, if you, let me have partial ownership and, a decent page rate. Yeah, let's go. So yeah, I mean, when I was at DC in my, Elvis Presley years at DC, when I was working with Denny O'Neil and his gang of associate editors, Scott Peterson, Darren Vincenzo, Jordan Gorfinkel, I had an extraordinary amount of creative freedom. I was allowed to run hog wild on Batman. Never took advantage of it. Always respected the character, always respected the creators that came before me, wanted to leave it in the same shape as when I came along. Didn't want to break anything. But
a long lost feeling.
Yes. I didn't want to make it my Batman, but boy, I had a lot of fun, and they let me have a lot of fun. And then things changed after the years, and it was less about creating quality work and more about who you knew. It was more about high-fiving around the table at the editorial meetings and less about what people were actually reading. And they just had no use for me anymore because I wasn't part of that. And I was never one of those guys who get involved in office politics. I've never, I just wanted to be judged on my own merit, the merit of my work. And I was never a schmoozer. I was never hanging out, making friends with people I didn't like just because I wanted to get work. That wasn't me. And so,
one of my kind of senses is that a lot of like corporate culture, to whatever degree, has gone from like accomplishment, you know what I mean, like producing something, to relationship building, from building products and things to just building relationships, has become now the new paradigm. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but yeah, I mean,
it's all networking. It's all who you know.
Jives with that similar rule. Yeah, you got to go network, and it's like, okay.
I mean, for most of the 2000s,
true, somewhat, but
most of the 2000s and 2010s, Marvel and DC were run by two guys who used to hang out at the same comic shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really this close. And I mean, I think at DC, I lost my, grace because I didn't like the same music they liked. I mean, it's just, I wasn't part of their clique.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's another thing is that it's like, I feel like so many things just become increasingly petty. People say,
People
justifiably
are petty.
talk about politics and everything else, but it's like I think that's just because the politics were the most visible thing they could be irked about.
Yes.
Yes.
These were always petty people who were going to, find reasons to serve their egos for various things. Now, of course, there's some people who are, very ideologically driven, but I don't know. I personally think that that's probably a minority of people, and a lot of it's just, self-absorbed pricks or whatever else you might want to call it. So.
Yeah, who will mouth the right things for job security. They'll be down with your political cause because they want to keep their job, but they really don't. I mean, I know creators who are always apolitical, completely never want to talk about anything about politics, and now they're raving, flame-throwing leftists because they want to keep working. They don't believe a word that they're saying on Twitter or Facebook or anything, but they want to keep working. It's a toxic environment.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
man culture.
Yeah, I mean, in my last days at DC in like the 2010s, I had an editor tell me that the editor-in-chief had a karaoke night at a local bar every Wednesday, and he suggested that I come up and go to karaoke night in order to get more work. And I said, that's never going to happen in a million years.
Yeah.
So if you go to karaoke night, you're a great comic book writer. If you don't, you suck. Stay home. So that's what it became.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what it became. But I'm working with guys. I'm working with Graham Nolan, Eric July, your boy Zach, and total creative freedom. Total faith in what I can do for them.
That's awesome, and I mean, and there's every reason to have faith, because I mean, you've done so much in the industry. You know what I mean? It's that background, it's the pedigree, and it's everything else. It's one thing. I mean, I understand wanting to, as somebody who's looking for, up and coming talent and stuff like that, and trying to help people get off the ground. It's one thing to be like, all right, well, let's, try and get some new people in here, get some more experience, build up their backlog, help them build their resume, grow as a creative, whatever they're doing. But when it's just a matter of rubbing elbows and status games, it gets real silly.
Well, and too often the new people they bring in, they're not comic book lifers. They're not dedicated comic book creators. They're waiting until they get their interview at Vanity Fair or get a job at MTV. And they think that DC Comics, Marvel Comics will look really cool in their resume. It's sort of kitschy. I worked at this goofy comic book company doing these goofy characters.
When did you start?
Justifies
seeing
my
that?
Netflix series.
When did you start seeing that become a thing when you were working with DC?
That pretty much grew up after I was out of DC and Marvel. Because when the old guard retired, Larry Hama, Archie Goodwin, guys like that, Denny O'Neil, when they left the business, it was a new era, and they were replaced by editors who were largely indifferent to everything except their own careers. And the old guard was never like that. They were about what the comic book looked like. Was it entertaining? Was it fun? Did it sell? Is this what the kids want? That was the entire focus. And let's give them a good story. Let's give them the best art we can give them. And then it became, no, it's not that. It was, like you said, who you knew. I mean, one of my editors hired an artist on one of my books because he thought the guy was cute. So couldn't draw for shit, but he was cute. So
Cabana Boy syndrome.
Yeah. It gives you an indication of what was going on. All I can say is Frederick Wortham was right. Ultimately.
I saw that in the traditional book publishing world when I dipped my toe into that many years ago. Though I understand what you're talking about. It's
horribly corrupt system.
It is.
I
It's a shame that comic books have gone that road.
So why?
I remember when I was in children's books, and my I reached a point where I wasn't working for the editors anymore. I was working for the salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what does Kmart want? What would they buy? Let's do that, you know.
Yep.
And he told me, he says, we're going to get a good review in Publishers Weekly. And I said, how'd that happen? He goes, $25.
Pay to play. Yep.
Jeez.
Handful of cash and a handshake will get you far.
Yes.
I always thought that just got you ahead of the line at the restaurant. I didn't realize it actually.
Yeah, in all things, that was how it worked.
I
don't think people realize how cheap a lot of the early faux advertising and whatnot was, because I think a lot of it just went right into people's pockets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you know, I mean, now there's like, it's established. You know what I mean? Everybody is getting their beak wet,
right?
As the process goes up the chain, and now it's all, you know, rubber stamped and official. So
yeah, now everybody knows about it.
But yeah, but they still keep doing it. You know,
that's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at charts going back to the silent era of what movies cost and what they made, and I came away with the idea this is money laundering. There's no money to be made in this business.
Tax.
So all these movies are like, they flopped. 9 out of 10 of them flop. Why
the Producers was a documentary, not a comedy.
Well, it's been well documented. A lot of it was a tax haven.
Oh yeah.
A lot of it was a tax haven, like, because it was cheaper to produce that movie and avoid taxes than it was to pay the taxes.
Well, I was reading David Mamet's new book, and he was talking about how he worked for a producer who was a dry cleaner. And one day the studio, they had a rush and they had to have all these stuffs for a wardrobe for a movie clean. And he thought, hey, movie studio, he charged them like 5 times the amount he would normally charge them, and they paid it. No questions asked. And then he thought, hell, I'm going to get into movies and hire myself as a dry cleaner. And that's what he did.
Yeah. Okay,
brilliant.
That's awesome.
And that man was brilliant for it.
Yes.
Yep.
Couldn't give a crap about movies.
I mean, there are people who I know have made significant amounts of money just sending charges to studios and things like that. Like some of them get caught scamming and things like that. But
there's that.
I'm reading this great book by the guy who was the locations manager on The Sopranos, and he was working locations on a Law and Order spinoff. And they told him to go to the Chelsea Market in New York, you know, which is this big warehouse type thing with bakeries and delis and stuff. Yep. He goes there, and there's a bunch of his set guys building a liquor store in the Chelsea Market. And he's like, "What, are we going to be filming here in a few weeks?" He goes, "No, the producers are opening a liquor store," and they were using props and lumber and everything else that had been purchased by the production company.
Holy crap!
Yep. And I'm like, what the hell?
And
they say, well, why do movies cost so much money? Well, that's why. None of it's
and there's got to be. I mean, these days with the way CG is, especially in modern, like the most recent Marvel movies coming out. Like the CG bills have got to be. I don't know. Those have to be laundered like back and forth. Like there's a lot of people walking away with some money there. But speaking of money laundering, anybody who wants to write their own self-promotional article on Iron Age Media, you can reach out to me. And if you want to make a small donation, you're more than welcome to do so. I mean, I
This
don't
is
require
a
Richard
it.
joke
accepts-
for the YouTube overlords.
Yeah.
We're not actually
Yes.
laundering money. God, I hate that I have to say that. If we
But
were
if you're
only-
interested, Richard
but-
prefers crypto.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Oh, but you're going to pay me in barbecue sauce.
No. My wife,
Yeah,
no.
Chuck gets
Wait,
barbecue
wait.
sauce. I get Bitcoin. It's
Don't
sorry, man.
confuse the two. My wife was going to pay barbecue sauce for an autographed
Okay.
book.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Let's not confuse the two. If you would like to also receive Bitcoins, that's a you thing. I know nothing about that.
I
That's
have
a
not
you thing.
joined that cult yet.
I have
This
also.
This is the Iron Age. Rich will be lucky if he gets an altcoin.
Right? Yeah. I'm not even
Lord.
gonna get Dogecoin. It's gonna be like Shiba or something. one of the-
I'll give you
one
a
of the
hope and a
knockoffs.
prayer.
You'll get
I-
Shib with hat. There you
I
go.
can-
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get paid in Pogs.
Did you see the Pogs comment, or did you just make that?
I just made that. I didn't see.
We
a
were
Pogs
talking
comment.
about Pogs earlier in the chat.
Oh my god!
I will never forget. Yeah, I'll never forget. I was a little bit young for Pogs, but my brothers were not, and my dad took more Pogs away from the neighborhood kids. And he is proud to admit it. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, those kids thought that they could beat me at a game. He's like, so I went out and I bought the slammer that had the best weight to it. And he's like, I took all of them from him.
Jeez.
My dad was ruthless. God, I wish Pogs would come back. That was so great. Maybe that's what I should do is a drink with crazy Pogs. I wonder if I could.
You know, I'm sure there's some Chinese manufacturer that would be happy to agree that they will certainly make you something that looks vaguely like a Pog.
Yes.
But
And
I
Lord knows,
got
I get like
returns.
a dozen weekly emails that are in broken English they're trying to sell me everything from children's books to like printing of because one of them figured out that I do magazines, right? So they're but also I was looking for
We
they
cheap
saw
for you.
Anvil, so they're also trying to sell me steel. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's just go away, block.
Wow. Yeah, I got
Got lots of copper to sell you.
the film version of Levon's Trade starts filming next month, and I'm getting emails from actors, musicians, and set designers. It's like I got nothing to do with this.
and you're on this
Talking
show?
to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Sir, I appreciate you being on this show, but what are you doing on this show?
Well, I like talking to people like you.
Oh, like
I
me.
say.
I see
It's-
how that was.
It's strange,
Yeah.
strange to consider, but
It's a
I'll
brotherhood,
Fred,
my friend.
fun.
take him at face value here.
No,
It's
I
a
got you.
brotherhood.
I gotcha. No, and it really is. And it's nerddom took a weird turn that I was not expecting because even when I was in high school and me being in high school, it was, the late aughts. I graduated in 2010. But being a nerd was not something that you wanted to be like proud about, even in those days. And then all of a sudden, and I had children by this time, all of a sudden, everybody was a nerd.
Right.
And I saw a kid, you'd be driving through and, you pass by like a high school, you're sitting there and all the kids are coming back from lunch or whatever. And they're all wearing Marvel and DC stuff. And so I'm like, dude, I would have got the shit kicked out. And it was only like 6 years before.
Yeah, you drive around, you see the decals on the cars for Star
Yeah.
Wars,
Yeah. And like
Transformers.
and it's like something shifted in a very, very short period of time. And which was weird to see. And I think it's a good thing now is we're starting to see a lot of people kind of leave it. Thank God. Because I'm like, oh, thank God. All of the people who weren't here for it originally, they're leaving now.
Right.
Go away. We don't want you. We didn't want you in the first place. I mean, but that being said, the nerds got some more people because of the movies and stuff. So let's be honest about that. That was a good thing. But man, something happened that just changed nerddom and fandom after 2010. And there for a minute, I think a lot of us were fooled to thinking it was good. Where were your thoughts on it when all of that kind of started blowing up as a veteran of
Well,
the industry?
I never saw comic sales go up, and that's all I cared about. These characters were becoming more popular than ever been, more well known than they ever were, and yet it wasn't reflected in comic sales. And the comic companies did nothing to try to go out and get people interested.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the first Raimi Spider-Man movie in the theater, right, packed house, man. First weekend, packed house, and all kinds of people, And when Uncle Ben dies, the audience freaks out, and I'm like, they never heard this story before. They didn't know this was coming.
The tourists. Yep.
And I thought, wow, this is going to be great for comics, but it wasn't, because the comic book companies didn't do anything to exploit it. I mean, you go to the magazine aisle in your local supermarket, and they got, the story of Batman, the story of Superman, Spider-Man, and their magazines about the characters. There's never any comics in them. It's all shots from the movies and TV shows and stuff like that. Yeah. Why aren't there comics in these things?
Why is and we'll get to this,
decisions.
But all right, I've got to jump the gun a little bit because I've been reading ahead in the super chats, and we'll get to those. But why Japanese manga and anime go hand in hand? Why the hell does American comics and animation or movies not go hand in hand? Where?
Well, it's one of the problems is it's all one genre. It's all superheroes. With the rare exception of Star Trek or Star Wars or horror comic, it's all superheroes. Manga is everything. I mean, if you want a comic book about baseball, there's like 12 mangas about baseball. If you want golf, true. My favorite manga is about deep sea fishing. I don't fish, but it's an awesome comic. And, so there's diversity, true diversity. There's value. I mean, you buy a manga, it's a chunky book. I don't know what they cost now, but they probably cost twice what a comic book costs, for, 10 times the content. So, it's an afternoon's read. Whereas, plus the comics coming out now from the United States, the main two are crap. They're not well made for the most part. I mean, there's still people doing great work, but they're few and far between.
Man,
it's a matter of quality. I mean, the last time comics marketed themselves was Vertigo. DC made a concerted effort to reach a different audience, and they were successful. But my thing was, then why not find another demographic and make comics for them? And why not comics for truck drivers?
Yeah,
just go for it. Find new niche readers.
I actually had an idea about that years ago, and I actually ended up just writing a few pages, talking with my buddy who's a truck driver, who was the inspiration of it, because I just thought it was funny, and it was based off of some just crazy stories that my buddy had. And I had this idea, and I'm like, well, I'm an action guy too, so why don't we mix this with like Die Hard and Escape from New York and some crazy ass stories that my buddy had.
Yeah,
like my buddy, like and the story.
Give it a kitschy name like Mother Trucker or something.
I'll tell you what, in the backstage, I'll tell you the name. I will tell you the name in the backstage because I've actually thought about this very seriously. And this would be the one thing that I would probably, if I ever actually sat down and wanted to really like put the pencil to the paper on, because the stories are from my friend and everything is just a hyperbolic version of him. Dude, he fought a freaking bum off of his trailer in New York trying to get out of New York City because he had to haul something to New York City and he had a flatbed trailer just trying to get out, and a bum was on his trailer, so he had to get out, fight the bum off of it, and then the bum stood in front of him at a red light trying to like taunt him, and he was like, dude, this is not a good idea. And that inspired this whole crazy ass story that I just had in my head. But it's stuff like that like, dude, I think
Royce,
truckers would eat that up.
You need to go play Bum Simulator on Steam.
Well,
If I wanted to
mean-
do that, dude, I'd go back to Colorado.
there you go. Stan Lee started with I don't remember what they were called, but they were comic strips about everyday people, and he loved doing that more than doing the superhero thing. Really, I
Right.
believe he said in his book. He just wanted to showcase real people doing things that were everyday extraordinary, and then it turned into people who became extraordinary, but it
Right.
always started with people. And that's something that the comic book industry in Western culture has lost, whereas you were talking about earlier with manga, no matter what the format, they're writing people, they're writing
Right.
something that anybody can resonate with and go, wow, I feel like this person feels if I was put in this situation. And then you want to read more and you dream about it yourself. That's always been the golden, target for any entertainment system. But we here in the West forgot all that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh.
So
I-
where
Moment of silence.
I have no more to say other than I agree with you.
well where
Highlight
does-
of my year.
where
12
does the
years from
down-
now, I'm going to be like, yeah, and Chuck Dixon agreed with me
There you go.
on this
There
day.
So here's the question. Where does the downfall of American comics begin? Because we were the apex. I mean, we're American. We were the apex at one point.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Manga
funny-
surpassing
funny
American
story
comics
aside.
amuses me.
Funny story aside, so my oldest daughter, she's 11 by the way. Her job is to do the dishes. She's been doing dishes. That's one of her chores in the house. My son, he takes out the trash. He does the dog poop. My other two daughters, they clean up the floors. They all have chores in the house. My oldest daughter started looking at all of the dishes as she was washing them and the little stamps on them. And she says to me one day, and she goes, "Dad, but why is everything made in China?" And she, as an 11-year-old, says this unironically. She goes, "Why is nothing made here?"
oh,
And now, me being me, like, I want to give the whole story. Like, well, little one, there was this man in office. His name was Clinton. But anyway, we won't go there. But all jokes aside,
It goes even further back than that.
if my 11-year-old can recognize why is nothing good made in America anymore? Where the hell did this start? Because I feel like everybody can point to so many different areas, but where does it begin? Where does the downfall of American comics start? Why aren't American comics great anymore? And it can't just be the people. I mean, yeah, that's a large portion of it, but where's the coin flip? What's that moment that it changed?
well, I think it begins in the 70s when you had the comics implosion. And
Wow.
part of the reason for the comics implosion was that they began hiring fans to write the comics. You saw more and more fans taking over, and they were only interested in superheroes. And I'm going to use DC as an example because Marvel made smarter moves than DC did at this time. But
Yeah.
DC, their two best-selling titles in the 70s were Sergeant Rock and Jonah Hex. And the new fan writers, they didn't like them. They didn't care about war comics and Western comics. And so eventually they became editors. And when they became editors, they began to give those books short shrift. They began to hire Filipino artists to work on them. Nothing against Filipino artists, but they didn't have the feel for American comics. American Westerns. They didn't have the feel for American war comics. And the readers sensed this. Quality fell down. And those titles collapsed. And with it, the whole DC line collapsed. And they laid off 40% of their staff. I mean, it looked like terrible.
Nice.
Now at Marvel, Stan saw this coming, and he said, we got to start plateau marketing. We got to bring out comics that are for the kids who have outgrown comics. And that's when they started Savage Sword of Conan, Savage Tales, and ultimately all their horror titles, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, things like that. And that got them through the 70s. So at least Stan was thinking about new formats, new audience. Well, DC just kept doubling down. Now we get to the 80s and there's somewhat of a resurgence. I don't know what causes it, change in demographics, whatever. Now comics are selling. Now there's a boom. And all these independent publishers are getting in, and the direct market begins to grow. And that's the second stab to the heart to comics, when the comic companies decided the direct market is the future, and they begin withdrawing from the newsstand. So there's no entry-level market for comics in America anymore. If you don't go to the comic shop, you won't see comics. No one walks into a comic book shop cold. Nobody walks by a comic book shop who's never read a comic book and goes, I think I'll go in there and see what this is all about. Nobody does.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the end. And then, like I said, the old guard is replaced by a new guard who could give a crap, and quality begins to suffer and sales tumble further.
Well, and that leads into the world that I grew up in. I never saw a comic book at a 7-Eleven.
No.
I never saw a comic book at the Albertsons. For those of you who know what that store is, in the I never saw them because they weren't there. They were only in the comic shops.
Right.
Yeah, the death of the spinner rack was the death of productivity.
Well, and we know a guy, and he's in the chat, no, not tonight. I'm sorry, but Luke Stone, who's
wants to bring that back.
He wants to put spinner racks back in gas stations, back in local grocery stores with more indie comics. But I think that's a great idea. And I some people, but they this company tried it with Walmart back. We're not talking about that. Right. We're talking about low price stuff in front of kids and families at the gas station, put in a place that they can see it. They don't have to be big spinner racks. They can be small, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I never actually
I'm trying to do that locally.
Yeah, but I never actually thought about that until now. But I did not grow up in a world with spinner racks in my local grocery store.
The only place I see comics outside of a comic shop are the public supermarkets. In the impulse aisle, you'll see the Archie digests.
Yeah.
And those are the only comics. But, Archie hangs on to that pocket, man. They obviously sell comics. Yeah. So God bless them for at least they're out there flying the flag. But
right
now, why Marvel and DC don't have a pocket, I don't understand.
Yeah, it seems like they probably missed their window with the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's too bad.
And if
it's hard to function when you slit your own throat.
Well, if the major supermarkets are looking at the sales, the major supermarkets are going, why would we put your book in our store?
Yeah.
And
I mean, when Disney had Disney Adventures in the impulse aisle, they stopped publishing it because they were only selling 1 million copies a month. That wasn't enough for them. So Disney's always been.
God, nowadays 1 million copies a month would be
a
bestseller.
1 million copies a year would be.
Oh God.
1 million copies a year would suit me fine.
Yeah.
Right. Really quick, Richard, are you good to hang, or do you got to get going?
I'm starting to fade. I'm trying to think if I have any intelligent final questions for Chuck here.
This is a drink with crazy. We don't know intelligence.
Well,
this won't be your last shot at me. I had a good time here. I'll be back.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate you.
I forgot to ask him this, and I'll never have another chance.
No, I'll never get another chance. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming by, and I am going to go ahead and peel off because I could see my eyes kind of glazing over, and I don't want to be the guy sitting there being like a zombie in the corner. So
that'll be me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
nobody needs 2 zombies, just 1. To
Zombie in the
kinda
corner. Is that
grumble
like
and
Elf
roll.
on the Shelf?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a new
Uh,
marketing thing.
It gets a little weird. Never mind. I'm not going to make that joke.
Nope. All right. Well, thank
Smart
you guys.
Rice.
Thank you everybody in chat for showing up. I will. I look forward to talking to you all on Sunday, and I'll see you around next week.
Where can we find you on Sunday?
Here at my house. No, over on the Iron Age Media YouTube. You can check me out on Twitter. You can go to ironage.media, and you can find all my socials from there. I do a Sunday night chill stream. I'm probably going to be actually working on a personal project this Sunday instead of playing a game. Just a little fun thing for a acquaintances competition. So you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
Good talking to you.
Good night, Richard.
Thank you.
Oh, good Lord. He's still there. He's not.
I don't know. It's frozen.
We can't talk about him yet.
Okay.
There he goes.
I was going to tell my wife we need to buy a plane ticket now and I will go to his house. Boy, that'd be a really expensive funny. So
Most expensive troll ever.
not the most expensive, but most expensive for me, that's for sure. No, yeah, like I said, part of what really got me into this was thinking, and I've said this on my channel many times. I have consumed more than enough content in my life. I mean, I'm 32. I look at the world a lot differently than a lot of people. But I had my heroes. I had my superheroes. I had the stories that I loved growing up with. Hell, some of the stuff you can see on the back wall here, like all of this stuff is stuff that's here that was important to me. And even some things in my adult life. But I look at my kids, and my kids have YouTubers. My kids don't have fantasy elements. They don't have the fantasy characters like I had. And yes, a lot of them were superheroes, but the encroachment of anime in my early, years, Goku and Vegeta. I mean, you see my boy Vegeta up here. A lot of this my wife bought for me. I mean, hell, this is a gift, but this is the helmet of the White Power Ranger. Jason David Frank. Jason David Frank, God rest his soul. The man was and is still a legend. Again, God rest his soul. But inspired many people. And has carried many people. And I look at it and I go, what the hell happened? And it's still this question that I have. And you've explained a lot of that tonight. And so I guess the last question that I want to ask, and I don't know if Daniel has another question, but I will absolutely let him have this before we go to super chats and talking with the chat here. But obviously you're working with Eric July and you are working with other people doing other projects. What is your hope, and do you hope to reach a lot of the youth again with the books that you're working on?
Yeah, I don't know what venue you can do that in now. I do a series for Webtoons called My Sister Suprema, which is aimed like a rifle at a young adult audience. But like I said before, not pandering or anything. It's a straight up sibling rivalry superhero parody. We're starting to do print editions of it as well as digital. And nice. But most of the reaction we get is from adult readers because I'm not real sure where to get to the kids. Now, kids are reading comics, but it's Dan Pilkey and stuff like that, and manga. That's what they're being exposed to. That's what they see. And another thing to remember is, and we all have this, you have the Power Rangers, okay? Quite frankly, don't care about the Power Rangers. But those are your characters. That's your generation. Generation before that was Transformers and G.I. Joe. Yeah. Generation before that was, whatever, Conan the Barbarian. So each generation adopts a character for themselves. They say it's the same thing with music. This is my band. This is my music. This is the music of my generation. You don't consciously do this, but you just do it sometimes to bug your parents, and it becomes your thing. And nobody's producing that kind of thing anymore in a place where kids can see it.
And Luke Stone, and I don't know if you know him, but I mentioned him a minute ago.
Is he the guy that prints on newsprint?
No, this is he's the guy who started Fund My Comic.
Okay.
And,
I knew the name.
And I've talked with him because he talked about a bigger business plan that I'm going to explain here. Let's condense it really quickly. Getting spinner racks up and going again. And I told Luke, if this is something that you want to do, I said, I want a pamphlet. And I live in a small town in the Midwest. But if I got pamphlets, I live in a small town in the Midwest. We know the owners of the gas stations. Right. We know the owners of the grocery stores. We know the owner. We know the managers of other stores. I can go and say, hey, our goal is to put out comics and get some stuff out there for people to read again. Here's the thing. Here's a pamphlet. Check it out. Maybe you order something. If it don't sell, guess what? It's a low enough cost. Big whoop. Right. Because again, there's a business plan here. But I think something like that, if we really wanted to get stuff in front of kids again, I mean, that's where I would be, because gas station, everybody goes to a gas station. Everybody's going in to get energy drinks every day. I mean, kids love energy drinks. You could put a sticker up on a door in front of the energy, right in front of Monster, right in front of Rockstar energy drinks, all that stuff. And kids go there and it's like, hey, check out this $5 comic, and put something up in front of teenagers. And I wonder, but I think it's just so culturally different, like what you said. It became the direct market and you only see comics in a comic book store. It's like, well, if you only see them there and you're not seeing them anywhere else, why the hell is nobody trying to put them anywhere else?
The problem is that the comic book business, businesses start and the corporate culture never changes. You never see a business where overnight they go, okay, we're going in the wrong direction. We're going to completely reinvent ourselves. Now they might say that and then they just go back to doing the same old thing. Comics is a business that the money always came to them. And they were always surprised when money came to them. I mean, when Action Comics #1, when there were no returns, they couldn't figure out why. And they couldn't figure out it's Superman. When Detective 27, there were no returns. Why? It must be this Batman guy. They didn't know. And that's the way it's always been. So they've never gone out and looked for money. They've never come out with like creative ways to get comics in front of kids. I mean, to me, there should be a comic rack at Buc-ee's. Have you ever been into a Buc-ee's?
I have not. They're not in my geographical area.
Oh my God! So you know what I mean, Daniel?
Yes.
There should be a big comic rack at Buc-ee's. I bet you they'd be open to it if you brought in the right material.
I think they would too. Out here where I live, we have something similar called Wawa, and
Wawa. Geez, yeah, I know. I grew up with Wawa.
Yeah, and I am trying.
So
hopefully I'll get there.
Is this a larger conversation that needs to be had more off stream? Because, and I say that because I think there's a lot of us that are passionate about it. And like I said, all I would need is pamphlets. And with Luke Stone and what he was thinking of doing to getting this off the ground, if we really want to get, I mean, we're going to need a boots on the ground thing here.
No.
I'm willing to do it. I think Daniel would be willing to do it. I think, is this where do we start a boots on the ground thing here to try to get it out to the local general stores, the local gas stations?
It'd certainly be worth it as an experiment. And then you could show, we put X amount of copies out and we sold X amount of copies in this relatively small market.
Correct. That would be the best way to metric it.
Right. And then you show it to money people. There's a lot of, I'm involved with a
I
business.
don't know money people. I'm going to be real with you.
Yeah, that's
No,
even me. I don't know money people.
no, but
I know a few, but not a lot.
I know money people.
I know money people. I know people who know money people. And I mean, I'm part of a startup, Spin Rack, and they were saying, we have to get investors from here. It's a comic book thing, so we have to get investors from here, investors from there. I said, no. We just need 2 billionaires who are comic book fans.
Right?
We have all the money we need. We don't have to go everywhere.
We just need,
2 dedicated comic nerds that got more money than sense. But yeah, it could be done. If you had the numbers, if you had the receipts, say, look, we sold a shitload of comics in this one area. As proof. And the thing is, with the way you can do printing now, you could do that. You don't have to run off 100,000 copies.
Well, no, what I'm saying, like, if you could give the gas station manager, he could open up the pamphlet and say, yeah, you know what, I'll give this a shot.
Right.
Let's put a spinner rack up, and I'll take these 10 books. I like the way these 10 books look.
Right.
I'll buy 3 copies of each book, and we'll put them on the thing. And if they sell, something to test. How do we get a test going?
Well, also you say, look, you put this up here, and I'll be in once a week. And if there's a pocket empty, I'll fill it.
Right.
We'll job it the way they do the impulse aisle at the supermarket.
Yeah.
Yep. It'd be worth it. It'd be worth it to do that. See if it something would click.
It
takes time. It takes effort, which is
why the Marvel DC aren't doing it.
Right. Well, exactly.
Like I said,
but it's also why a lot of indies aren't doing it either. Most of us in the low tiers, we're all working all day. We've got day jobs that support our life so that we can do this for fun on the side. And, that doesn't leave a lot of extra time to dedicate to running around, refilling impulse racks, that sort of thing. It takes someone who has the time, energy, and will to scientifically prove or disprove that this will work. And, one of us will get there.
Yeah, and
we're really into it.
It's a better measure of the possibility of a market than what they tried to do at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah.
Because they had no control over how they were displayed or anything else. There was nobody jobbing them. They were leaving it up to Walmart, and of course, most of the time you couldn't even find the books. So it could be done. And more than anyone else out there in the comic book sphere right now, Eric July proves there's a ready audience for comics. I mean, he's doing amazing numbers.
Out of everybody out there, he could probably be the guy to do the spinner rack thing in gas stations and small towns and stuff like that. I'm not saying that he should. I'm just, I mean, it shouldn't all fall on him.
No,
I'm saying he's the most likely to have the financial stability to do it, but it shouldn't all fall just on him.
Well, and the thing is, he's got, he has the content. It's all professionally produced. He's got a whole lot more content on the way.
He does.
And
boy, does he have the content? Does he really? I just don't know, Chuck.
Man, you don't know what's coming. I mean, I've already written 4 projects.
I just want, and I don't know if the bug is already in your ear, but please, for the love of God, Norfolka.
Well,
maybe the fans.
That's coming. They're definitely going to do something with that. I mean, this is the readers telling him.
We have to be careful when we're talking about Rippaverse stuff, or ND Andrew will reach through the chat and slap each of us.
Oh no, he was there. No, I saw Andy Andrew a while ago, but no, but Mike has bad news as Andrew's about to pop in. No, but sorry, Chuck, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Yeah, me neither.
But I mean, Eric cares about the medium. I'm not going to say the industry. I don't think he cares about the industry, but he cares about the American comic book medium, and he wants to see it come back to life. And he's doing it, against all odds. I mean, the numbers he does on are essentially trade paperbacks, they're incredible. They're great numbers, not just for a crowdfunder, but for a regularly published book. So
Yes.
I would.
the audience is there, and they're super enthusiastic. Even the people who hate them are super enthusiastic, which is actually encouraging.
If somebody wanted to do a test run, I would talk with local businesses in my town to do a test run for somebody, and I'm dead serious. And my wife is in the chat. I know my wife would do it too. I mean, keep it. So
I was already planning on sending you guys a box.
We laugh about my wife selling barbecue sauces and all that stuff and trading barbecue sauce for. My wife every year makes fresh homemade barbecue sauces, hot sauces, and then fresh out of our garden seasonings, right? And there are local stores around town that just to help people out, they just put them up here, and then they take a little bit of a cut for shelf space, and it's like a small cut for especially for local stuff. But I literally live in an area that is ripe for the taking on stuff like this, but not in a disingenuous way, but like. There's children here that would probably look at a Rippaverse book and go, "What is this? This looks really cool." And if it now again price appropriate, that Luke Stone's idea was, well, most guys are doing X amount of pages. What if we cut it down and we got it more to like a trade paperback price of like $5,
right?
So that people could afford it. And it's more, and it's not the high quality paper that you guys are doing there at the Rippaverse, but he had some ideas of let's make it less expensive and affordable, and let's make and instead of a kid going, let's do. His idea was this: the kid is forced with the candy bar or the comic, and his mom goes, "I can't get you both. You can either get a candy bar or you can get the comic," and you want the kid to go, "I want the comic."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was kind of Luke Stone's idea. And I think
I believe Iron Age Distribution, he said he wanted to do 32-page floppies again.
Yeah.
Just as the tester market.
But
if you can keep the price point down to level with the candy bar, you're in good shape.
Yeah, but I mean, and his idea was that these would be books that have already crowdfunded through his site, Fund My Comic, and some of these books are 90 to 120 whatever pages, but he's like, but what if we took that and we broke it down into 4 issues of just a floppy, and now we can turn that in and sell that at gas stations on spin racks and stuff like that. Like, let's get these where the people are. And it's a great tester idea, but I mean, I don't know how all of that comes to fruition. I know I said I was going to go to Super Chats a while ago, so...
Well, ideas have to start somewhere. This is a good one.
They do. I'd be willing to do the groundwork. I live around a bunch of small towns, and I don't think there's any reason why I can't stop by gas. Guys, I'm a freaking YouTuber. I'll live stream it. Hey, guys, I'm just dropping off. Like dead serious. Like, I would. Like we got to have some hype, guys, for this. And like I've said, I'm not an artist. I mean, I've got my guitars and stuff.
You've got me. I'll provide product for you to test.
Same here. I've got content just sitting in the drawer, man.
Yeah, like I'll drop books off. I'll hype up, I'll say, like, why not, guys? Like, all of us want this. How many of us are willing to drop books off at a gas station once a week, or at a general store in your local town, or at a local bookstore where they gets a little bit of traffic? I mean, I think if all of us want this, we need to expect more than just shouting it out on YouTube.
Oh yeah, because we're just screaming down the streets of our own ghetto here.
Yeah, and I think I think that, and there's no reason you can't put QR codes and stuff in there to take people to websites to go check other stuff out, and
there's
so
plenty of content out there, and there's plenty of people that have high quality content that would dig getting into this format. I mean, I've heard discussed on many forums like this, the idea of repurposing already existing content in a cheaper format for a broader audience. So it's an idea that's floating around out there. It's just going to have to take somebody to show that it would actually work. And I have no doubt it would work. And the key, you do some badass covers, and you're going to
There's
sell
been
them.
some badass covers too.
A little bit of
There-
local news coverage, and boom.
I think we could pull it off.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, with that being said, I think that's a really good note to end off and go over to super chats and questions that we've gotten throughout the night.
Yes.
So let's get to it. Herman P. Hunter, the Lord Forge, for $10. Also known as the Hedge. We call him the Hedge. He says, Mr. Dixon, have you ever considered making a comic about a young man with a magical wig? Oh, fuck you, Hedge. And his trusty sidekick who is a goat. Fuck, God.
I have to say, I have never thought of that. So,
Well,
That's
if you
channel
had, you'd
lore.
be about the sixth person.
and when my book Wigman and Goat Boy comes out in 6 months, it's a coincidence.
I swear to holy hell, if you guys make Chuck Dixon write a book to meme me, I will disown all of you. Shit, I shouldn't have said that because I don't know Chuck's sense of humor. He might actually do it.
Wig and beard.
Oh, fuck.
Page
is Carol-
1, panel
is
1.
Chuck, I shouldn't be telling you this. I think Carol Brown has already commissioned the comic.
She does have goat-based content on the way. But come on, Wig and beard. It's the best name.
Wow.
Please don't make Chuck Dixon meme me. Because, like, I would have to buy that book and I would have to review that book. And I don't want to say that a book that's memeing me is good, but I wouldn't want to lie.
It's more inevitable than you think, Royce.
I fucking hate all of you. I hate all of you. You're all a bunch of degenerates. I disown all of you. Oh, God. Oh, God. All right. And Maji Chan, through the course of the night, gifted 16 A Drink with Crazy memberships. Holy crap. Maji Chan, thank you so much. That is incredible. Thank you so much, Maji Chan. And she also has a question here. That says, did you ever get to do a project with Stanley or meet him? If so, what was he like?
I never met him in person. I was in the same room with him a few times, but I did get to work with him. And I did spend quite a bit of time on the phone with him. He called me like a few days before Christmas one year. He had gotten involved in packaging a group of superhero comics that were to appear in National Hockey League programs. And they all featured, like, you know, there was a superhero called the Penguin, you know, and a superhero called the Flyer, you know, and a superhero called the Bruin. And this guy had written the stories, and they got really good artists. I mean, some terrific high-level comic book artists to draw them. But the dialogue was from hunger. And Stan asked me if I could rewrite all the dialogue for all of these comics over the Christmas holiday. And so I ended up doing it, and I was on the phone with him over and over and over again, you know, Christmas Day, the next day. And,
Oh my God.
And he would always apologize, I'm ruining your family Christmas. And I said, man, Stan, working with you is my Christmas gift to me. I said, don't
There you
worry
go.
about it. And you know, I was well paid for basically what it was, a rewrite job. And then a few years later, he brought me on to work on a comic called The Governator, which was going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger as a superhero. And it was going to be an Archie. And I wrote 3 issues, and the first issue and part of the second issue were drawn. And then the news came out about Arnold's dalliance with the maid.
Oh.
And the whole thing got canceled. But the highlight of that was, because it involved Arnold, I was in these conference calls with Stan and all these Hollywood people. And I hate talking to Hollywood people. And so I'm on the phone with them, and they're bitching and making notes and suggestions and this and that and the other. And I'm like totally overwhelmed because all their ideas are stupid because they're Hollywood people. And at one point, Stan says, all right. Leave Chuck alone. He knows what he's doing. I'm like, yes. Highlight of my career.
He
Highlight
was
of my
that
career.
real of a guy. So that
Oh yeah, Stan. He was great to work with. Absolutely great to work with.
just that's awesome.
So yeah, I never met him, but I met him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll tell you another story another time, but I never share it on the air.
You know what? One of these days, I want to get you backstage, and we won't. It'll never leave the room.
Okay.
But I would love to. I just
That'd be
love to hear
awesome.
some of the stories.
I got a few. I got a story about Stan, and I got a story about Arnold. I'll tell you backstage.
All right.
Someday.
Did you hear that, chat? We're done. We got to go backstage. No more super chats.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Okay. Actually, Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Just a question, not a super chat. Just a question. Says, what are Chuck Dixon's thoughts on manga's takeover of the North American comic industry?
Well, I mean, at least kids are reading comics, so the medium didn't disappear. Now it's up to American comics to try to woo some of that audience our way. And I don't know
Step up their game.
Yeah, I don't know what shape that takes, but I know what shape it doesn't take is doing pseudo manga. It's gonna. We gotta look at how manga's formatted, what subject matter it does, and one of the biggest kicks.
A lot of hero stories. A lot of heroes stories in a lot of the.
Oh yeah, but the other thing is we lost female readership entirely for comics. Entirely.
Oh God, yeah.
And girls used to drive the comic book sales. I know people don't like to think that, but they did. For the longest time, from the 40s up until like the early 70s, girls were buying more comics than boys.
Because traditionally, girls like reading more than boys do.
Yeah, I mean, girls like Spider-Man. They like the DC mystery books. They like romance comics. They like, they like Teen Titans. They liked X-Men because they had, soap opera aspects to them. And by soap opera aspects, I'm not talking down to female readers.
No, the
drama
drama.
like a more complex storyline. They like to read about real human relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the comics that offered that, I always thought that my success on Nightwing was due to I had a pretty big female readership for that. And I was conscious of that when I was writing it.
Yeah, that's a good.
But yeah, manga. I mean, it's too late to beat manga at its game, but at least people are reading comics. That's encouraging.
So to capture young females, I'm just going to use my house as an analogous. Women are weird and they like horror and creepy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
most women that I know, if you just, hey, what's your favorite horror? All of them will start just screaming at each other about that. I don't know why women are like that, but that's one thing I've noticed is that women tend to be into more of the creepy pasta stuff than men are.
Well, another thing is, I mean, I'll be watching like the dumbest sea-level action film you can imagine, right? My wife walks through the room, this looks so stupid, everything else. And then, Jean-Claude Van Damme or whoever goes to see his wife. And then my wife goes, oh, he's married? Now she wants to know more. And it's like I'm watching for the punching and kicking and explosions. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, does he have kids? Does he, So that's all it takes."
I tell people all the time one of my favorite action movies of all time is The Expendables. And I had a buddy of mine, that movie has no plot. I'm like, that's the point. What
doesn't need a plot. It's got lots of guns and explosions.
Yeah. JVP Music for $10 says, for Chuck, how do you write supporting characters? How do you make their actions have consequences that intertwine with the plot and boost the main characters? Asking for a friend. He's lying. He's asking for himself.
Well,
unless he really is his own friend.
I met him. I met a soap opera writer years ago, veteran soap opera writer, and she had read a bunch of my stuff in preparation to an interview, and she said, "How do you get the reader so interested in your characters in such a quick amount of time?" She said, "I can't do that. How do you do that?" And I said, it's my mortal fear of boring the reader. So when I'm introducing a new character, there has to be a meet cute or something special about them right from the beginning. And it has to be through their actions, not anything they say, but through things they do. An example of this is Dick Grayson's landlord in Nightwing. We didn't see her face for issue after issue after issue. And the only thing we knew about her was that she had an Irish brogue. And I always came up with ways to hide her face. And then the big reveal, many issues into the series is that she's of Chinese descent, but grew up in Londonderry. And so you're already interested in the character, and then I put another twist on it. And I got that idea because I was, you're doing stuff and the TV's on, you're listening, but you're not watching. And they were interviewing people in North Ireland on some issue. And at one point I looked up and it's two Chinese girls of Chinese descent with the thickest Irish brogues you can imagine. And I'm like, I'm going to use that someday.
That's funny.
And that's when I came up. But you got to use, hooks like that to make that character interesting right from the beginning. And that's, and actions are better than words. You never want to introduce a character by two other characters talking about them first.
Yeah.
Like, he's so cool or he's so stupid. No, let's see him be cool or let's see him be stupid.
So
love that.
I just received this. I have to skip ahead of everybody. I know Chuck's got to get going, but I both love Kikomon and hate that he is making me do this for Chuck Dixon.
Oh no.
But Kikomon for $100.
Oh, whoa.
Here we go.
Says, can Chuck evaluate Kikomon on the Kikomon song? Nostalgic finale. Well, this won't be the finale, Kikomon, because I know Chuck has to go. Chuck, I apologize for what you're about to see.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you've seen worse. But Kikomon does this. This has been played on Shadiversity. It's been played on John De La Rosa's stream. It's been played on several other streams. And
the infamous Kikomon song.
This is the infamous Kikomon fight song. Oh, good Lord.
Royce is the cat, by the way.
I am not the cat.
Show me, show you, Kikoman, Kikoman, show me, show you, Kikoman. 大豆の星からやってきたいかつあいつはキコマン醤油は体にいいんだぜさっきさようのあるんだぜそうそうケチャップ目じゃないぜ必殺技だキコベンだから卵焼きにも醤油だってんだろ
See? Definitely Royce.
I am not the cat.
Show you Kikoman, Kikoman, show me, show you, Kikoman. Alright.
I love the tempura catfish. That was the highlight for me. That's a work of
so
genius.
fun.
Twisted genius, but genius.
Agreed.
Kikomon saw that years ago on the internet, and it defined his internet personality.
As it should. You should be very proud of that.
The Lord of Soy.
I can't believe I just played that for Chuck Dixon. Okay. Oh my god. I will say this: when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is a little cringe." And the more that I watch it, I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And then eventually, I'm just bobbing my head to it.
Always.
Oh God, Chuck, am I keeping you any longer? Do you have a few more minutes, or do you got to get
I
going?
got a few more minutes. If you got a couple more, super chat.
We've got a lot more. I don't think we'll get through them. I will read all of them, and I would let everybody know, guys. If I read them here, and Chuck has the time, maybe he'll drop in the comments of the VOD later, and he can answer them, or or you're more than welcome to pop in on my Sunday coffee live stream and answer any questions too in the comments for people too, because I read all my comments and stuff on Sundays. That's what I do.
Or you can come and ask the questions on Ask Chuck Dixon on my YouTube.
Yes.
You can go do that. No, go do that. That's way better than the ideas that I had. That's way better than any idea that I had. Mario Trujillo for $10. Wait, did I skip a chat? No, I did not. Okay. Says, to stand on the shoulder of giants, one must become a giant for others to then stand on. Culture is the foundation of society, and every generation is supposed to add another layer to the foundation.
Supposed to, yes.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree with that at all. Mr. Hat for $20 says, awesome stream, Royce. He says, hi, Chuck. I'm a writer. I'm dropping a 180-page graphic novel around April. I'm 24 years old, and I didn't read a lot of American comic books. What era do you think American comics were in their prime?
Oh boy,
big question.
I mean, I would say, when Marvel hit its stride in the '60s, and then another era I'm particularly love is early '70s DC War comics, when you had all of the top talent working on them, and they were doing really good, really strong, really mature, earnest, and very well told stories about combat. So those would be the two eras that are my favorites.
There you go. Kikomon for $5 to show you, Kikomon. Too busy to keep up with you guys. Hope you are doing well and staying sauced. Woo! I can't woo. My voice is totaled.
Get after it, Kikomon.
I've been sick for a few days.
Need some Kikomon sauce. I'll fix you right
now.
No, Royce is the cat. He doesn't like soy sauce.
I hate soy sauce so much.
God.
I like hot sauce. I like hot sauce. I grew up around Mexicans and Italian. My food had seasoning. Okay. Kikomon for $20 says, I prefer anime stories over American stories. How can you keep the same characters alive for 50 years? Retire them, give them a closure. You have different aging populations looking at the characters from different lenses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I meant about turnover. There's no turnover in readership.
Yeah. And that is something that manga has, because practically every manga out there has a conclusion.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
no matter how long it is, it eventually comes to an end. Yeah.
I did a video a while back. Is that the story that never ends is a story without purpose.
No.
The purpose of every story is the conclusion. That's the and a story that never ends is a story without. I don't know. That was my summation of what I've seen over the years.
Not wrong.
I mean, a little reductive, probably.
Yeah, but so much of American superheroes is about selling tchotchkes and peanut butter.
Oh god, tchotchkes. That's a word I haven't heard in a while.
Capitalism.
Kikomon for $10 says, I loved Naruto growing up when I was a kid. When I was 14. It matured with me. Now I cannot watch it because I matured. I moved on. I can't imagine watching a grim version of the show for people in their 30s to 50s.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with him. I really don't.
I mean, every story doesn't need to be told. I always use the example of if Charlie Brown finally got so frustrated with Lucy for pulling the football away that he killed her and buried her in his backyard, yes, that is a story, but it should never be told. That's,
Right.
it's a
I
terrible
agree.
story.
I agree 100%, and it's why I think it's why I think what's being done with the Mickey Mouse license or the Steamboat Willie license today is
Right.
despicable, and Walt would be turning over in his grave more so with what those people are doing with Steamboat Willie than what Disney has done with his properties.
Yeah.
I think it's horrible. I mean, Walt was an American through and through, and poured his heart and soul. And to see what people are doing with the open license of Steamboat Willie is disgusting and despicable.
That's public domain. We're only going to be
well,
seeing more and more of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
sadly. Sadly.
Our treasured pop culture idols being trashed.
No. Well, yeah. What is it? It's another 10 years for Superman.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. It's another 10 years for Superman. God, fuck. Not like they already haven't taken liberties with Homelander and all that. Let's be real here. We've already seen the dickhead Supermans. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Kikomon for $2. Is Iron Age Media non-profit? Well, I have no idea. That's a question for Andrew. Andrew Rowland for $5 said there's a manga about the manga industry called Bakuman.
Okay, I want to read that.
I've actually heard it's fantastic. I've actually heard from people it is fantastic.
Wait a minute. What's it called? I'm writing this down.
BAKUMAN.
I am going to look for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I have heard from people, and actually I've heard from people who, because they're if you're not paying attention to the manga or the anime industry, there's a lot kind of going on over there right now about the working conditions, and this is the manga that kind of gave a little bit of the secret sauce away about the working conditions over there.
Oh, we're talking about sauce again.
It's only news to us. It's established reality to those in Japan. They're very much aware of how it all works, and to them, it's probably just kitschy. Something we all know. Now they made a cartoon about it. Cool.
That's pretty cool.
But to the rest of the world, it's like, oh my god, this is really what happens to these people.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
And they sign up for it.
Sadly. Chuck, I know you said you had to go a little while ago. Where are you at on time right now?
Well, I just put in chat. Seriously, gotta go soon.
I know. I was hoping you would do that. I was trying to be subtle about it.
Like I said, I will be. I'll come back. I like this. This was fun.
No, man.
Awesome.
Chuck, dude, I am so glad to have you here. This was an awesome conversation. I got to learn a lot tonight. I hope the chat got to learn a lot tonight from your journey and where you started, the things that you were doing, the connections that you made. And I guess with that, sir, give us your sign off. What do you do? Where can we find you?
Well, you can go to a place called Amazon.com and just put my name in. I just released a new novel a couple of weeks ago, and I got stuff coming out all the time.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for being here. God bless, and just keep going at it.
Ask
Chuck Dixon, because those are fun.
Yeah. Well, thank everybody for watching and listening. This was good, and like I said, I'll be back.
Awesome. I look forward to it. I have to come up with new questions, though. I'm not good on the second interview. First interview is my best one. It's all downhill from here.
Okay. I'll anticipate that. I'll come up with my own material.
Please do. God,
carry the show for
less
him.
Work for me.
All right. Well, I'm taking off.
Have a great weekend,
Have
sir.
a good night, sir. Thank you so much.
See you again soon.
Oh man, what an awesome guy. Oh,
that was so cool,
dude. That was great. Well, we've got some super chats to get through. Daniel, you ready?
I'm here.
Okay.
Mhm.
We're not Chuck Dixon, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's
No,
gonna
we're
leave
not.
now. No, we're not. Kiko
Bye,
on for
everybody.
$5. I thought opening a door for a lady was good manners, but she just screamed and flew out of a plane. Oh shit, Jesus.
I expected it to be a Kikoman joke.
Can you bring Chuck Black back, please? No, that would be against his will, and that's kidnapping or something like that. Kikoman for $5. You the bomb.
like
No,
Chuck.
you the bomb. A compliment in the U.S., an argument in the Middle East. Oh fuck.
Not usually.
Kikoman for $5. Option 1, let's eat grandma. Option 2, let's eat grandma. Oh shit.
Yeah, punctuate accordingly.
Yeah. Proof that punctuation is no. That's Kikoman, you're so fucked.
I've heard that one. That's an editor's joke.
Maji Chan for $2. Thank you, Chuck. Please come back to give Royce crap. Apparently, he said he was going to be back. I doubt that,
Yep.
Chuck. He got out of here as quickly as he was able to. No, he was awesome, dude. I cannot believe that we got to meet Chuck Dixon tonight. That's amazing.
It was so nice to talk to him.
Dude. God, what a wealth of knowledge
I've
he
watched
has.
some of the Ask Chuck Dixon shows, and being able to sit here and actually interact with him was pretty amazing. And it sucks that I'm underwater the whole time.
Right. Dude, I wish I could have been on my A game tonight. I tried, man. God. Yeah, sitting whenever you get to meet people who are considered modern day legends, you never feel like you're quite on your game. And God.
And this time, literally.
Yeah, right. Kikoman for $5. If someone burns in a fire, do they get a discount at the crematorium?
If they're dead, it doesn't matter.
No, it's for their family, so it does, because their family has to pay for it.
But that's not what the question says.
Semantics. Iron Age marketing for $10.
Nikki.
Reminder to listen to Daniel P. Riley talk marketing with me on Iron Age Marketing this week. Yes, go to Iron Age Marketing over on YouTube, guys.
Yeah, we recorded that a while ago, so I was not sick.
There you go. Kikoman for $5 says, Priest, do you have any last requests? A murderer sitting in the electric chair. Yes. Can you please hold my hand? Where does he find all these?
Actually, kind of reminds me of a joke, but I'm too tired to do it justice, so I'll save it for another show.
Brian McCoppin, member for 14 months, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Richard is still awake, and DPR is upright.
Yeah. Why is this new? I've been upright for months.
Oh, God. Mr. Daniel P. Riley. What are you doing? Where can we find you, man?
Hopefully I'll be in bed soon, but you can find me at
in his bed
whimsyland.org.
Very soon.
Yeah. And asleep.
With binoculars. What?
Wait, what? No. I have very heavy sunlight resistant blinds and stuff. Make sure that I don't get
That's all
woken
right. You
up.
buy the right kind, you can see through that.
Should I be concerned?
They're spendy, but you can.
I'm just going to assume I should be concerned.
Well, you know what they say about assuming.
True. Anywho, yes, you can find me on the Twix at Mr. DP Riley. I have not been as active as usual because I've been sick, but you can definitely reach out to me. DMs are open if you have questions about writing or editing work that you would like to get done. And on IAK Sundays, in between Royce's Sunday Coffee and Richard's Chill Stream, you can hopefully get some work done with me because I will try to stream and not fall asleep in the middle of it.
We need to make a we Iron Age Marketing, please reach out to us and remind us to do a freaking banner for IAK Sundays. Because it's perfect. It's like me at 11 a.m. Share the mornings with me, share the afternoons with Daniel, share the evenings with Richard. It's fucking perfect. How do we not have a banner put together already?
Yeah, wake up with Royce, get some work done with me, and chill with Richard. It's perfect.
It is. We got to do that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in to this legendary Iron Age Nights. Holy crap. We got to meet Chuck Dixon. Daniel, what's the name of your stream? You're
The Freelancer.
You should post it in the chat. You should post your channel in the chat.
I'll
Ladies and
try.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been freaking fantastic. I cannot believe we got to talk with Chuck Dixon tonight. That was awesome.
Right?
You guys will see me on Sunday Coffee at 11 a.m. Central. That's where I go and I read all of your comments for the last week. Boy, I've got some doozies this week because I told a bunch of people that AI art is actually art based off of the functional definition. I also saw your comment, Daniel, and I'm more than willing to tear that one a new asshole. But, you'll have to wait till Sunday to find that out. Yeah, I'm a stubborn bastard, and I'm not backing down on this one. Not to mention most of the comments, people completely bypass what I said in the video, but it's fine. It's fine. Welcome to the Thunderdome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Don't let Roy.
I have a lame music.
It's not about letting me. It's about spending money on a very high dollar pair of binoculars, and then there's no let, and it's more of a it'll happen thing. Thermal, guys. Thermal binoculars. You can watch anybody sleep with thermals. They're freaking crazy, too. I've seen them. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into Iron Age Nights. I will see you on Sunday Coffee. Daniel will see you on IAK Sundays. And until next time,
The Freelancer.
cheers, everybody.
Good night, everybody.